Schmoozer. Councilman Schmoozer.
I'd like to call the San Bruno City Council to order. And before we start, I'd like to thank the San Bruno Garden Club for the beautiful floral arrangement they supply for all of our meetings. Roll call, please.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Here.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Here.
Mayor Ruane.
Here.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Here.
Councilmember Salazar.
Here.
And I would like to ask our new Finance Director to lead us in the pledge, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have an announcement. The annual Operation Clean Sweep event will be held on Saturday, May 1st, beginning at 9 o'clock in the morning at San Bruno City Park. Irene, do you have something?
I do. I would like to invite everyone to come. We're very excited. It should be a beautiful day. We have projects besides just cleaning up. People can be painting the garbage cans on San Mateo Avenue and in the city park. We're also going to be planting things and putting wood chips out, so it's going to be a very exciting event. I also, traditionally, we give gifts out on that day. This particular one is for this year. It is an insulated bag. The bag's made from recycled plastic bottles, and the inside is insulated, and it has a zipper on it, so you can, instead of bringing a brown bag, you can now bring your insulated bag and keep your lunches hot or cold, however you do it. So I also want to make a comment that all the things that we do for this day, the food is donated for the luncheon, the supplies and things are all paid for by the bottles and can deposit that you all pay for when you do buy bottles and cans of beverages. And that money, if it's not given back out to the people when they deposit their bottles, then that money is divided up to the different cities by population, and that's how we pay for this event. None of this event is paid for by general funds. So I'd like to present these to the city council members who are, always support me on this project, and they also come and participate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this means you can't get another one on the day.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we encourage you all to be there and participate and work hard. Item number 4, presentations. We do have a presentation tonight, a proclamation declaring April 26th to 30th as West Nile Virus and Mosquito and Vector Control Awareness Week. And I would like to read this. City Council of the City of San Bruno, State of California, whereas the City of San Bruno recognizes that West Nile virus is a mosquito-borne disease that can result in debilitating cases of meningitis and encephalitis and death to humans, horses, avian species, and other wildlife. And whereas in 2009, over 112 people in California were infected with the West Nile virus, 4 of them resulted in fatalities. And whereas although these numbers are much lower than recent years, the State Department of Public Health and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention predict West Nile virus will again pose a grave public health threat in California in 2010. And whereas adequately funded mosquito and vector control, disease surveillance, and public awareness programs are the best way to prevent outbreaks of West Nile virus and other diseases borne by mosquitoes and other vectors. And whereas the Mosquito and Vector Control Association of California has designated the week of April 19th through April 25th, 2010 be designated as West Nile virus, Mosquito and Vector Control Awareness Week, and now therefore I, Jim Ruane, Mayor of the City of San Bruno, proclaim the week of April 19th through April 25th, 2010 as West Nile virus and Mosquito and Vector Control Awareness Week in the City of San Bruno, and call upon all employees and citizens to join me in the effort to diminish the risk to our community's health and safety. And I would like to present this to Mr. Robert Gay.
It's always a great honor coming back and seeing the cities during this month. Unfortunately for us, this is a pretty busy month for us, especially with all the rains. We've been battling mosquitoes all over the county for the last 6 weeks. Had to amend our budget, double the amount of chemicals we've been purchasing for the biolarvicides. It's also been a pretty exciting month for us in the legislature, as you well know. Your city was one of the few cities that actually sent support letters for our Yamada bill. And our Yamada bill is a very, very important bill. Hopefully it will prevent the state from purchasing lands in the future and not have it set up to where they're using the best management mosquito practices to cover those lands. So hopefully that'll be, it's gone through the Profession and Business Committee at 11-0 vote, so it should be on its way to conclusion hopefully for us. And also with your help, we were able to put an end to the Swanson bill, which is the one that was going to prevent the use of our products around schools. We get called by schools every week to go control yellow jackets and hornets on the school grounds and mosquitoes. And this bill would have prevented us from providing any kind of services associated with your schools. So we did get a full exemption. Thank you for your letter that you sent to the Swanson. That was big support for us. The other thing we really want to thank you for is a trustee that you put on our board, Mr. Robert Riegel. He is a true advocate of your city. He is very, very active on our board. He heads up the policy committee, which nobody wants to be on, and he does an incredible job at it. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you very much for keep reappointing him term after term. We need him. And hopefully with Robert and if some of the other trustees would kick up to the level that he operates at, it's amazing what we'd be able to get done. So we've been very fortunate so far this year. The rain is causing everybody a lot of worry with West Nile virus, as you well know. We have had no human cases in San Mateo County. The approach we've always taken is to attack the vector, the mosquito, and if we attack the vector and keep the populations low enough, we can prevent the cycle of West Nile virus, and we've been able to do that to date. But we're expecting serious concern now, probably in the East Bay area this year is where we will probably see a rather significant increase in the West Nile virus human cases. So thank you very much for your support, and we look forward to another exciting year. Any questions?
Any questions of Mr. Kay? Thank you, Robert, and thank you, Robert. Review the agenda. With no objection, I'd like to move item 11, report of commissions, boards, and committees, to right after item 8, public hearings. And then I'd like to give this off to the city manager to introduce a new member of our city family.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. It's with great pleasure tonight that I introduce a new member of our executive management team, long awaited and highly regarded already. Mr. Edmund Suen is seated behind me. Mr. Suen joined us last Monday as our finance director, taking immediate charge of our financial affairs in the finance department and operations in our city, which are obviously a critical and core administrative function for San Bruno. Mr. Suen joins the city after approximately 8 years in municipal finance with prior experience in the private sector, and comes to the city as with a licensing as a CPA. Edmund worked for approximately 4 years with the city of Walnut Creek as the financial services manager, and most recently was the finance director across the bay in the city of Emeryville. Interestingly, a city of relatively the same budget size and complexity of San Bruno, although with a much smaller residential population. Interestingly, Emeryville is known for its very active and very progressive and productive redevelopment activity. Something that I think Mr. Suen has experienced with such operations. Mr. Suen brings at a beneficial time to our city. So I know that you join me in welcoming him. I invite you to take the opportunity to meet with him, to get to know him a little bit. And again, we welcome you, Edmund, to the city of San Bruno.
Thank you, and welcome, Ed. We don't have a lot of money to count right now, but
Zero.
Yeah. Looking forward to working with you. Item number 6, approval of the minutes of the regular city council meeting of March 23rd, 2010. Errors, omissions? Okay, seeing none, they'll be approved as submitted. Item number 7, consent calendar. All items are considered routine or implement an earlier council action and may be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion unless requested by a council member, citizen, or staff. I would like to pull item 7C, have an action on A and B.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion second, on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Item C is accept the letter of resignation from Community Preparedness Committee member Kevin Butler, declare a committee member vacancy and direct the city clerk to initiate the process for appointment of a new member. Two things. First of all, to Kevin, thank you very, very much for your years of service, and I'd like to give this to Carol to see, have we posted notices in the last number of months, and maybe we could set a date and time to actually interview candidates.
Okay, presently we have 3 vacancies, one on traffic and safety, one on personnel board, and one on citizens crime prevention. This will add community preparedness, which we will advertise tomorrow. But I do have 11 people that have applied for the other 3 positions, and I'd like to ask council if they would be available on April 27th at 6 o'clock to do interviews for those applicants.
That's just before our next council meeting.
Exactly.
Is that okay with everyone?
Thursday?
It's a Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Did I say,
Uh,
it's 2 weeks from
27th,
today.
27th.
Today's the 13th.
Okay? All right. You're not here. Let's get it done.
That
We're
work?
short on people, so that's fine. That's
Okay.
fine. Okay. Motion to approve item C?
So moved. Second.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item number 8, public hearings. Notices have been published, posted, and mailed. And our first one, first of all, I'd like to give this off to the city attorney. I think she has some helpers this evening. Pamela?
Yes, I do, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. As you know, this evening there are 4 ordinances that are going to be presented, and 3 of those will be handled by the city attorney's office. I'll be presenting the first ordinance, and then the other 2 ordinances, one on a tax procedure and one on an appeals and an animal case, will be presented by 2 other attorneys who are donating their time to the city. And when I say donating their time, I do mean free of charge, pro bono, costing us nothing. The way that this came about is the City Council has been very clear in its direction that all of the departments should be looking for creative ways to attempt to reduce our budgets and to reduce the need for expenditures in every department to the extent possible. And it occurred to me that due to the downturn in the economy, that there were a good number of recently licensed and highly talented lawyers who are looking for jobs or who are employed on a part-time basis. And I thought it might be mutually beneficial to those lawyers and to the city to invite a few to donate their time to the city. It has the benefit to them of enhancing their work experience and making them more desirable in this very tight market. So currently, I have 2 lawyers working with me that I'd like to introduce to you. And I've asked them this evening to each present an ordinance and to write a staff report that was included in your agenda packets this evening as part of their professional development. One of those lawyers is Denise Chan, who is a 2009 graduate of Golden Gate University in San Francisco, an excellent law school. She is a licensed attorney, and she has also a BA from UCLA in political science. And she brings with her some excellent public experience, public service experience that she performed as a law student, working as an extern in the Superior Courts, for the DA's office, for the Public Defender's office, and for the San Francisco City Attorney's office. I also have with me Nicholas Hahn, who is also a Golden Gate graduate who graduated in 2008 with honors, is also a licensed attorney, and his undergraduate was at Berkeley, also a major in poli-sci and English as well. He also brings with him a wealth of wonderful experience writing briefs, externing for the courts, and he currently does also volunteer work with the San Francisco Bar Association. Both of them have donated 2 to 3 days a week to the city since February, working on a variety of projects. And so I would like to express to both of them, prior to their making their presentations, the appreciation that I have for their contribution to the city of San Bruno. So, with
Thank you
that,
very much,
then I'll
and
do the I'll do the first ordinance,
Okay.
and then they'll follow up with the next two.
Okay, the first one is hold public hearing, waive the first reading, and introduce new chapter 6.54, smoking regulations to Title VI, Public Peace, Morals, and Welfare of the San Bruno Municipal Code.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you recall, the City Council gave direction to staff to draft an ordinance prohibiting smoking in tobacco retailer shops in San Bruno. And this was following a report during which the City Council considered the proliferation of smokers' lounges in neighboring communities. As previously reported to you, the state of California does prohibit smoking in enclosed places of employment pursuant to the Labor Code. And the idea behind that legislation was to create a uniform standard across the state to reduce exposure to employees to tobacco smoke. However, there are a number of exemptions where smoking is actually allowed, and one of those exemptions is for tobacco retailer shops. So under the state law, people can smoke in tobacco shops unless the city prohibits it. And that is, it is allowed in tobacco retailer shops where the primary purpose of that shop is to sell tobacco and tobacco-related products. Now, the proposed ordinance, pursuant to your direction, prohibits smoking in tobacco retailer shops in San Bruno. I would amend the definition that I provided in the ordinance slightly to include wholesale shops as well. So I would ask to make that amendment prior to the introduction of the ordinance. Now, the ordinance is written broadly so that there is no smoking in any shop that sells tobacco or tobacco-related products, and it's written this way to assure maximum coverage. So the result to San Bruno would be that for any shop of any kind that sells tobacco, there is no smoking, and therefore no smokers' lounges that would be allowed. This would not apply to any existing establishment that has already been approved or existing within the city, but would be applicable to businesses going forward. At the same time, I did want to amend a portion of the written staff report to reflect some information that, contrary to what the staff report says, other products could be sold in those tobacco retail shops if you adopt this ordinance. So the result is that you would have a tobacco shop that could sell other products, but no smoking would be allowed. And the reason for that is that the state exemption that allows smoking in tobacco shops really only applies to and is relevant to where smoking is permitted, and therefore the primary purpose of that shop has to be, selling tobacco products. So if that is not the primary purpose of, if smoking is allowed, then that exemption really doesn't apply, and that limitation as to what else could be sold there does not apply. So at this time, I'd like to see if the City Council has any questions for me.
Any questions of the
So
city attorney?
if I could, just write on what you just said. So the last sentence in your staff report is,
Yes, I would withdraw
Strike
that,
that. Okay.
because I ended up writing the ordinance a little bit more broadly than
Okay.
that.
if I could also ask, what about on property outside? I mean, that's whole nother issue. You're just talking about indoors.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions of the city attorney? If not, we'll open the public hearing. Any members of the public like to address this issue? All right, seeing none, oh yeah, please step to the podium. And give us your name and your street name.
Certainly. Thank you, particularly thank you, Mayor Ruane and council members. My name is Derek Smith. I'm actually a county employee. I'm with San Mateo County Health System, and I'm here largely just to offer support and assistance to you should you choose to move forward with this ordinance or any other related health ordinance. We've worked with many local communities to assist with
education, signage, certainly anything that has to do with tobacco policy or tobacco education implementation. And I just wanted to be sure that you know that we're a resource. I already spoke to Ms. Thompson beforehand, just to let you know that we're available to assist. And certainly as you continue to discuss, as I see maybe agendize other smoking issues, feel free to contact us if we can be of any help at all.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public like to talk about this issue? If I close the public hearing, you're precluded from making any more comments on this. Motion to close?
Move to close public hearing?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, what's the, any discussion, or what's the pleasure of the council?
Through the chair, Mr. Mayor, you made it very clear at the last meeting that you didn't want to have any smoking within these facilities, and I believe that council agrees. And so with that, I'd like to first move to waive the first reading.
Second?
Motion second to waive the first reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried.
And now to introduce the ordinance for adoption.
Excuse me, with the modified.
With the modification that the
On the
city
last
attorney.
paragraph.
To add the wholesale shops
Wholesale
within.
shops.
Okay, Councilmember Ibera.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item B, hold public hearing, waive the first reading, and introduce new chapter 3.38, additional provisions to Title III, Revenue and Finance, requiring payment of assessed taxes prior to legal action. Staff report, please.
Mayor and members of the City Council, good evening. The ordinance we're introducing to you tonight is a technical cleanup. Basically, the staff is recommending an ordinance that requires payment of taxes before a taxpayer can challenge them into court. This is something the state has long been able to do, and cities always thought they could do it too, but recently it's been called into question whether local governments actually can do this without a specific local law requiring it. This ordinance would close that gap. So in short, this ordinance would add a new chapter to the Revenue and Finance title with currently one provision that requires litigants to pay now, litigate later. What this ordinance is doing is making sure the city can collect taxes and avoid the city having to guess at its revenue stream, while an organization litigates whether it must pay particular taxes, or if any, and how much. So in practice, let's talk about who this really affects. First of all, it doesn't affect most people. This ordinance really applies to taxes that the city directly levies, so we're not talking personal income tax. What we're looking at is the business license tax and the transient occupancy tax. These are the only taxes that the city currently levies. We should also clarify that there's no litigant immediately affected by this. The city's not dealing with any tax litigation right now. This ordinance is a protection in case the issue arises in the future. San Bruno's authority to enact this ordinance is well supported. As I said before, this is something the state's long been able to do. The California Constitution already has a provision in requiring taxpayers who want to contest their tax assessments to pay the state first. But recent cases have called into question whether cities can rely on this constitutional authority or whether it has to enact its own duplicate ordinance. This is why the safer course for the city council is to adopt an ordinance. And other cities in the area have done just that. Just recently, this past year, the cities of Redwood City and Sunnyvale have added the same provision to their codes that we're presenting to you tonight. And also, the city of City of Palo Alto had this item on their agenda just last week. So the city council would be in good company if they were to enact this. So in closing, staff recommends that the city council pass this ordinance. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have at this time.
Any questions of our
Pamela, why
presenting
can't you
attorney?
say it like that?
Any questions of our presenting attorney?
Very well.
Okay,
Good job, Mr. Chairman.
I'd like to open the public hearing on this item. Any members of the public wish to speak? All right, seeing none, if I close the public hearing, you're precluded from speaking on this item again. Motion to close?
Move to close public hearing?
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion or action?
Make motion to waive the first reading?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Would you like to
Introduce the resolution? an option.
Should have asked her a question at least.
Well, she did so well, there wasn't a need to.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibera.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item C, hold a public hearing, waive the first reading, and introduce an ordinance to amend Chapter 6.36, Animal Control, the San Bruno Municipal Code, and to clarify appeal rights regarding dangerous and vicious animal determinations. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. Staff recommends introduction of an ordinance that clarifies the appeal procedures for animal control laws. The ordinance will make clear that a person who is challenging a determination that an animal is dangerous or vicious has an appeal to a hearing officer and then a further appeal, if necessary, to a court. Also, someone who has a challenge, who is challenging a determination for some other animal control procedure, such as a permit for additional animals or for nuisance determination, they have an appeal to the City Council and then a further appeal, if necessary, to a court. The reason this clarification is necessary is that we've seen litigants confuse the applicable appeals process and claim that they were entitled to both a hearing officer and a City Council appeal prior to an appeal to a court. This can result in extending litigation by adding further appeals processes where ample due process was already given. So here's some background. In 2005, the City Council amended San Bruno's animal control laws by incorporating San Mateo County's laws relating to dangerous and vicious animals, as well as other matters such as licensing. Procedures under the San Mateo County Code are enforced by the Humane Society, which is currently under contract to provide animal control services for the county. All other animal control matters, such as permits for additional animals, nuisance determinations, and appeals to City Council, are all dealt with under San Bruno's laws. Now, under San Bruno's code, appeals to the City Council are only meant to apply to those matters that the city itself enforces, such as nuisance findings. However, some aggrieved parties have claimed that they have a right to appeal county determinations to the City Council. For example, an animal owner whose dog has been deemed dangerous or vicious by a county official may try to appeal that decision to the City Council, even though city staff had no involvement in the original county determination. So the main issue is that there are two sets of appeal rights, and these sets of rights should not be confused with one another. Staff recommends that San Bruno's code be amended to clarify that the appeal rights contained in the city's regulations don't apply to those county determinations. This can be accomplished with a simple amendment that separates those regulations enforced by San Bruno from those enforced by the county. And this amendment will clarify that the rights, procedures, and entitlements granted under the city's code are separate and distinct from those rights, procedures, and entitlements granted by reference from the county's code. At this time, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions of our presenting attorney?
Through the chair?
Okay.
So is there a case study that says that either this city or other cities locally have gotten into this sort of confusion?
Well, there's no actual case on point where this has been an issue. It's just that the appeals processes as they are a bit unclear as to, for aggrieved parties, as to where to direct their appeals.
Yeah.
What this ordinance will help to do is to help streamline the appeals processes so that for county determinations, the appeals are handled by a hearing officer, and then any further appeals are handled by a court. Whereas with city practices, the appeals would go to the City Council, then to another court. It would help to prevent the situation where an appellant would be able to take another bite of the apple, so to speak, by jumping from hearing officer to the City Council and then to another court, and then to the court system.
And prior to this ordinance, that
was
ability.
possible.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? At this time, I'll open the public hearing on this item. Would any members of the public like to speak on this item? You should know that if I close the public hearing, you're precluded from speaking.
Move to close public hearing.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion or action by the council?
Through the chair.
Yes.
I was going to say that I think this is good cleanup language. I think there's already a due process in place with the county, and that's why we adopted the county code. So I think it helps clear it up and streamlines the process. So with that, I'll go ahead and make a motion to waive the first reading.
Second.
Motion second to waive the first reading. All All in favor?
Aye. Go ahead and continue on and introduce the resolution.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item D, hold a public hearing, waive the first reading, and introduce an ordinance temporarily suspending liability of airport parking facilities for a portion of the airport parking facility tax provided for by San Bruno Municipal Code 3.16.180.
Good evening, Mayor Ruane, members of the City Council, Edmund Soon, Finance Director. This item before you is a public hearing item, and it's a consideration of the extension of a 5.5% airport parking facility tax for the calendar year 2010. A little bit of background: back in 1999, San Bruno voters approved an 8% airport parking tax, and that's now been codified in our Muni Code. The code provides that the City Council may, upon finding of a public benefit, decrease that tax temporarily. The implementation of the change of this tax does require an ordinance amendment, and therefore this item is before you. Sky Park, our operator, and we do have a representative here. Nicole Judge is here in case there are any questions for her later on in the session. Sky Park, our airport operator, has requested an extension of the 5.5% airport parking facility tax rate through the calendar year. And some of the considerations that have been identified by the operator are as follows. The operator reported a loss in 2009. Staff did due diligence in reviewing the financial statements and the tax returns of the operator to concur with that information. In our discussions with the Sky Park representatives, they indicated a number of constraints, some of which include the following. The economic environment as measured by passenger activity at the airport has been flat, comparing the passenger activity, if I may, passenger traffic for 2009 versus 2008. The increase has been at a 0.4% level, so very, very flat for that period compared to the prior year. The Sky Park facility is mandated, as all other parking facilities are mandated by the airport, to convert their vehicles from diesel to clean air vehicles, and in their case it's compressed natural gas, so they're incurring some costs associated with those conversions. There's also costs associated with their lease, which is an agreement they currently have. There's annual adjustments of 5% for their operating lease, so they're continuing to see escalation in their cost structures. And finally, Sky Park has indicated that absent of the continuation of the 5.5% reduced rate, they would be looking at a very dire situation and really looking at a situation where they'll be forced to close their business. So extending the 5.5% tax rate reduction is intended to respond to the economic conditions and the hardship that's cited by the operator there. And it also provides a positive benefit for the community in avoiding potentially the closure of the facility and the revenues associated that the city enjoys in its general fund. It's also important to note that this request will sunset at the end of the calendar year, 2010. And so with that, I will take comments from questions from the City Council on this request.
Any questions?
Through the
Yeah.
chair. For staff, when did we? It's not clear in the staff report. When did we first reduce the tax rate?
The tax rate was first reduced, I believe, in
Was it after 2006?
2002-3 is the recollection. 2003-4, sorry.
4. And I guess for the company representative, what have been I guess the competitive costs? Have the costs risen with Sky Park, the fees and things in the last couple of years? Yeah. Or are you at 2008, 2009 rates?
My name's Nicole Judge from Sky Park. We're still at the same rates that we were at in 2000. Our rates have been, what we're charging our customers, it's remained very flat because of the competitive nature of our business. We've also had several other parking lots open up, and the hotels are also getting into parking. The Clarion Hotel, I think it's the Sheraton in Burlingame. They've opened up a separate lot that is just for it's for airport parking only because they have lower occupancies in their hotels, so they've added more parking spaces at an extremely reduced rate, much lower than ours.
And on that comment, on that information, did you experience, was there any change? Because I believe just recently Millbrae did adopt a tax.
I'm not really aware of
Okay.
that issue at all, sorry.
Okay.
Any other questions of staff or Nicole?
Through the chair.
Michael?
Is the tax that we're talking about here generally passed on, is that paid by the customer, or?
We do charge on to the customer, yes.
Just going to the customer.
Yes.
So I imagine that in that business, there's a fairly large fixed cost for just maintaining the operation, for owning the property, and probably a very small incremental cost that goes along with each rental of space. And being that the tax is paid on one occurrence of a customer coming in, when that volume goes down, clearly, I mean, you're not getting the money, but also if you don't have a customer, you don't pay tax on it. And I'm wondering what kind of guarantees or how you would justify that condition can change, being that the fixed cost, even if customers start coming in, your fixed cost is still going to be large. How do you address the fact that some of those customers may not come back, and even if they do, that the fixed cost really doesn't change for you?
I'm not quite certain I understand the question
Let me try
clearly,
to
and I'm sorry.
rephrase that then. The way I understand it is, if you start getting more customers, they're going to come in, they'll pay the tax. If we reduce the tax, we're getting less per customer. You have less customers, we get less, but your fixed cost remains the same.
Our rent, our insurance, those big
all
costs,
of those
yes.
things are going to stay the same. So I'm just wondering, we can offset some of what you pay on the tax, but none of the fixed costs, which I imagine is probably by far the larger portion of what it costs to operate your business, hasn't changed. It won't change.
We're hoping it will change. We're negotiating with our landlord. We actually, and I hate to get into too many details just for competitive natures, but we honestly thought we had an agreement going for 2010 where we would not have to come back here. And our landlord has decided to sell our property, and they would not give us that freeze and rent that they were talking about, a 2-year freeze. We were in heavy negotiations with them for about 8 months, and then it came down to the wire in December, and they said, well, due to some other companies we're holding, we may get out of the airport parking business and move on into, they're a real estate investment trust, and they think they want to take our type of business out of their portfolio. This may be more information than you want. You can stop me anytime. But Fast Track, who is the largest off-airport parking operator, they went bankrupt this year, in 2009. And that was one of their holdings. So they quit getting any rent payments from them. So they kind of started to back off and think maybe we don't want to be in this industry.
And that would be my concern as well, because there is more competition. We have BART now taking people to the airport. I think we're trying to encourage people to not drive.
Right.
So I'm wondering what the future of the industry is, and
we are too, and we're very hopeful that we can, keep it going, keep our 50 employees employed. We're extremely grateful to the city and everyone on this council for helping us in the past. We truly did not want to come back and ask for this, but the nature of the industry, it's required.
Okay, thank you.
And for Michael's benefit too, the Sky Park doesn't just park cars, they'll service cars, they'll detail cars, got some dents and dings, they'll have it taken care of when you get back. So it's more of a full service type parking facility than just parking it out in a cyclone fenced lot. So, you know, I understand it's difficult out there. I'm in a business too, and it's really hard. So, okay, any other questions for staff or the applicant? At this time, I'd like to open the public hearing and see if any members of the public would like to speak on this.
Move to close.
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any action? Discussion?
Through Chair, I move to waive the first reading.
Second.
Motion second to waive the first reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I'd like to introduce the ordinance for adoption.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. All right, we are going to move up item number 11, which is receive annual report from the Planning Commission, and I believe Mary Johnson is ready to give a report.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of we're almost going to say the Commission of the Council. My name is Mary Lou Johnson, and I'm the Planning Commissioner. I served as chair in 2009, and this is why I'm giving you the report. I will be providing you with a summary of 2009 and an outlook for 2010. There is a PowerPoint to your area, to your left. First, I want to point out that we have had a very consistent and a longevity in our Planning Commission. I'm really proud to state that we are not Siamese twins. We speak very boldly about what we're passionate about, but we're a very strong commission, and I'm really proud of that, to be part of that commission for over 20 years. And also to acknowledge our council liaison, Councilmember Ken Ibarra. We've participated in some major projects in 2009, and the Commission participated in the general plan and the completion of that, as well as the development of several other ordinances. And for example, the wireless communication ordinance and the vehicle repair ordinance. We've also reviewed the residential design guidelines, the housing element, and approved 3 lots in the subdivision along the Sneath Lane area. Some of the smaller, some of the smaller commercial and residential projects for 2009. The level of activity for residential and commercial, interesting enough, the application was similar to 2008. And the Planning Commission reviewed a total of 34 projects in the smaller commercial and residential division. And the breakdown of those 34 projects was 16 architectural review and use permits were processed, and 18 residential use permit applications were also processed. And just to give you a brief overview of some of the goals for 2010, and with the goal of providing a higher quality of life in San Bruno and responding to the needs of the community, we have set some high expectations for any development within our community, and that is in alignment with many other commissions and committees and council. This is not done through only the Planning Commission, but in collaboration of all of those areas. But really the key factor is the higher quality of life in San Bruno, and that's really stands clear coming from our community as well. Guidelines are now in place for applicants to meet the new expectations. Additionally, some of those areas that we're taking a look at is implementing the general plan, implementing the residential design guidelines, and implementing the housing element update, and the completion of a zoning code update with a sustainability component, and the complete the downtown and transit corridor plan. I'll give you just a brief little piece on the general plan. This is of a new area, and it's to focus implementation of economic development strategies. And that's primarily, for example, a list of, providing a list of some of the commercial properties that are available, identify ways to to do business in San Bruno, develop some levels of outreach plans, and there'll be many other types of creative ways, but those are just to give you a brief overview in that area. And it's also a review of applications for consistency within the adopted general plan. We're all very excited and celebrate that general plan completion. And the completion of the zoning code update for the consistency with the adopted general plan, the transit corridor plan, and the residential design guidelines. Want to include a sustainability component in that area. And the residential design guidelines, of course, that comes really strong in our area. The standard has been established and the associated guidelines have been developed. The new guidelines improve the quality and compatibility of the residential expansions, and they provide the applicant with clear instructions. The guidelines allow staff to be proactive in the design of the review process, which is extremely important. It gives them a lot of empowerment to be able to implement what really the community and all of the commissions and committees have been speaking to. The guidelines benefit the applicant, the planning department, and the planning commission, and the city council. You know, it streamlines things, it makes us efficient, and it really makes a real results in a win-win for everyone. And the residents, the applicants, and the staff commission and council really get to see it's a ripple effect. And when things are streamlined and things are in place, we're able to, everyone gets to benefit in a particular way. And it looks like one place might be, it's really, this place might benefit more than others. But when you really think about, for instance, the residents, they can feel good about having their opinions in place, their input. There's been a lot of collaboration with the community and hearing their thinking, the process of that. The staff, they get to, they get clear guidelines. They can implement very specific, so when it does come before the planning commission, it's clear, it's concise, it's well done. The staff does a marvelous job, and I must say that in the 20 years, it just continues to get better and better. Our leadership is strong and good, and I'm really proud to be part of that. Our community ultimately really reaps the benefits of good planning, and it's exciting to see how it is moving forward. Also want to continue to participate in the Transit Corridor Steering Committee meetings. The Commissioner Chase and Mishra will continue to serve on this committee. We'll also adopt the corridor plans. And other projects, these are basically anticipated projects for example. It's a review of the Pacific Bay Vista renovation project. There's a possible review of a redesign for the Cedar Grove projects with a smaller home size, which I'm sure will make the residents quite happy. And lastly, I really want to say thank you to the City Council for your policy direction. It's been really important for us to get clear policy direction. You've done a great job, and we appreciate that. And we look forward to collaborating with you in 2010. And I'm open to any questions, and I really appreciate the opportunity to present before you.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't have any questions, Mary. What a year. I mean, historically, I'd say staff and the Planning Commission has taken on many projects and finished up things that have been lingering for many years. And I think it just feels so good to be, the Planning Commission and planning staff have planned. This city is organized. We know what to do now. We have it in a document, and we know what to expect. We're up to any challenge. So it's a comforting feeling knowing that we can take on anything and know what to expect. So congratulations to the Planning Commission. And you make a good point. There is a lot of experience on this commission, and so they've been through a lot of things, and so they've had a lot of input on some of these changes and what's worked and what what hasn't worked, and it's been very valuable.
Well, thank you for that input, and I'd be happy to pass it on to the commission.
Thank you.
Good. And Mary, also for me, as you know, I came from the Planning Commission to the City Council about 14 and a half years ago, and it was a lot of fun, a lot of work, as you know. It's not just meetings, and it's out in the public, knocking on doors and visiting commercial enterprises, and in the last number of years, we've really come a long way in this city. You can just drive around and take a look. So you and your commissioners have had, tons and tons of accolades to do all of this stuff. It's just wonderful, and we congratulate you, and please pass it on. We really appreciate your work and efforts.
Well, thank you, and I will pass that on. Thank you.
Anything else?
That completes my report, and thank you for the opportunity.
Great, thank you. Item number 9, public comment on items not on the agenda. It is the council's policy to refer matters raised in this forum to staff for investigation and or action where appropriate. The Brown Act prohibits the council from discussing or acting upon any matter not agendized pursuant to state law. Anyone like to speak on something that's not on the agenda this evening? All right, seeing no speakers, we'll go right on to number 10, conduct of business. A, adopt resolution amending the 2009-10 capital improvement program to add the Lions Field synthetic grass project, appropriating up to $200,000 of park in lieu fees for survey and design work, and authorizing staff to apply for grants and conduct a fundraising campaign. Staff report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. On March 9th, staff and the Park and Recreation Commission presented information to the City Council about the Lions Field synthetic grass project. The project would call for year-round use of the facility for multiple sports, for a wide variety of local nonprofit organizations. Tonight's request is to allocate up to $200,000 from the Parks and Lieu accounts to do the engineering and the site design work. There is an estimate that we've received from one of the vendors that this work would be about $125,000 because there are some unknowns with tying it into the storm drain system. We would be asking for an allocation of up to $200,000. If this allocation is approved, the Public Services Department would send out an RFP looking at engineer design firms, and then would come back to the City Council with an agreement with one of the firms, or to approve an agreement with one of the firms to go ahead and do the work. At the same time, staff is asking to begin a larger scale fundraising effort, not going around to small businesses and things, but to pursue some of the larger grant opportunities or some of the foundations. With City Council's approval, staff has already applied for one of the grants through State Proposition 84. That was a $600,000 application. We have not heard back from the state at this point. They did call up staff, I believe, yesterday and asked a clarifying question, but it seems as though it's just procedural more than leaning towards either way. We have also applied for a grant through U.S. Soccer Foundation, and that was a $200,000 grant that we were asking them for. So we are looking at both of those items. I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Any questions of staff?
Through the chair.
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My understanding is, just so I'm clear, we're asking for up to $200,000 under park and lieu fees, which will be added to the capital improvement. Then, therefore, it would the engineering and everything and the analysis would come back to council for a clear appreciation of what is going to be on staff time, what it's going to be the direct costs after they've done all of their work, and then the council from that point can evaluate it and then proceed forward if they deem necessary. I will say that I agree, and I think it's a necessity as far as the fundraising efforts, if you want to call it that, or the grants or foundations that you've mentioned. I think we would be looking and wishing, at least speaking for myself, that if we go forward on this, the whole park and lieu fees not be drained for that task, but in essence offset by some of the various fundraising aspects that you've raised.
Anyone else? Questions?
And if I could add to that, you made it clear at the last hearing that these park and lieu fees are only available for the purpose for why they were collected. So it's not like the public thinks that we should be using park and lieu fees to get a new pool, in this case, or park and lieu fees to fix up the rec building, recreation center. Am I correct?
Not exactly.
Okay.
The park and lieu fees that we collect are collected under what's generally known as the Quimby Act. It's a feature of state law. And under the state law, the purpose of the collection of those fees from new development projects is for, and the funds can only be used to expand the capacity of parks and recreation facilities.
Okay, right.
So, in fact, the items that you just listed are generally, although we would need to look at any particular project carefully to validate the application of those fees, in general terms, I believe that those projects would all likely be eligible uses of the park in lieu fees collected by the city of San Bruno. You are correct, however, that the fees are collected for a restricted purpose, and they may not be used, for example, for general fund purposes to provide police officers or for other specifically eligible uses.
To staff, is there a time limit on using these fees?
There is. The Quimby Act requires that the fees be used within 5 years or returned to the applicants or the developments from which they were extracted. That is the purpose for which you receive, if the council may recall, an annual report on your development impact fees, the park in lieu fees being one of those that is typically reported to you, the status of the fund and the status of expenditures.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions of staff?
One last, what would be a figure that you would be targeting for fundraising? As much as you can get, or is there?
Pretty much.
We will try and get as much as we can towards the project. As I said, we have already looking at $800,000 in grants. I think I think staff would feel comfortable coming back to council if we could raise at least half through fundraising efforts, and then taking the other portion. I think staff would at least make a recommendation or have the initial discussion with council at that point. But we will try and get as much as we can through the outside sources.
And I think, I mean, I had this concern initially about expending all of the park and lieu fees, or the vast majority of it, until you did speak about the grant possibilities and that $600,000 grant. So press on and get that.
Okay. Any other questions of staff? Any action by the council?
I'll adopt the resolution.
I know, I'm quiet too.
No one else is speaking up?
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item B, adopt a resolution authorizing the closure of San Mateo Avenue between Genevan Avenue and Sylvan Avenue on Sundays from May 2nd, 2010 through October 31st, 2010 between the hours of 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. and Genevan Avenue between El Camino Real and San Mateo Avenue on June 6th, 2010 between the hours of 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. for a farmer's market.
Thank you, and good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council. About 1 year ago, the City Council approved a resolution which allowed the Pacific Coast Farmers Market and the San Bruno Chamber of Commerce to operate a farmers market on San Mateo Avenue on Sundays. This market operated extremely successfully from the middle of June through the end of November. This market brought thousands of residents to our downtown area. I talked to shop owners in downtown, and they were all they were extremely excited about the success and the amount of customers that it drove to the downtown area. The Pacific Coast Farmers Market and the San Bruno Chamber of Commerce once again wish to operate this market. They're doing so to operate the market in largely the same way that they did last year. However, as noted in the staff report, there will be 4 changes to the market's operations. The first is the timing of the market. As I mentioned before, last year the market operated in the middle of June through the end of November. That was largely a timing issue. They now want to start operation in the beginning of May through the end of October, and this works better for the fruits and vegetable seasons. Those of you who may have went to the market towards the end last year, you might have noticed that the number of vendors dwindled, and that was just because the vendors no longer had the fruits and vegetables that they needed to sell. So this market timing would line up better with the seasons. The second thing is a slightly different layout than last year. As you may remember, last year customers looped around the booths that were positioned together. This year they would be positioned apart and customers would go in between the booths. The third thing is the market timing. The council subcommittee last year recommended that the timing be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. rather than an earlier start time from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And while that did have some upside, what the market noticed was that people tended to still come early. What we were trying to do last year by having it later was that a lot of people who go to church in the area could go after church to the market. What I think happened is a lot of people in the area were actually going before church perhaps, or just showing up early to the market, because it tends to be that markets open earlier. So that is the reason they're proposing it from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. this year. And the biggest change this year, as you'll notice in your staff report, there's a request for 2 road closures. Last year, the market actually started the week after Posey Parade, so there was no conflicts that could have happened. This year, in order to avoid the conflict, they're requesting that the road be closed, that Genevan be closed between El Camino and San Mateo Avenue. Staff feels that there would be a lot of overlapping attendance and would probably increase attendance for both events and be a great day for the community to not only have the Posey Parade, but also have the farmers market to attend. The police department and the fire department have reviewed this layout and will, if approved by the council, will be placing additional conditions on this new arrangement. For instance, traffic on El Camino moving down, we want to make sure that people are aware that the market there is on Genevan, so they don't make that turn off El Camino Real at high speeds into the market area. So there will be signs put up, and the police and fire department will be involved with the conditions of approval. So with that, I believe I saw all the council members at the farmers market last year, so I think everyone knows, how it was basically ran and that it was a large success. So I can answer any specific questions that you may have at this time.
Questions?
Through the chair.
Irene?
Thank you. Do you plan on, or do they plan on having the same hours, 9 to 1, on Posey Parade Day as they do on the other days, or are they going to adjust it for the Posey Parade time?
I believe, from what they've stated, yes, it would be at the same time from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Posey Parade Day. As you will notice, Laura Baumann is here from the San Bruno Chamber of Commerce, as well as a Pacific Coast Farmers Market representative.
Okay, and I'd like to make a couple of comments. I did go many times, so did my family, and we enjoyed the farmers market a great deal, and we saw many, many residents come up and down. And I think that the new site plan that you have here should work very well, because it did get a little crowded and distracting the other way. I just have a technical comment to make on page 55. I believe this is from the page 55 that's here is from last year, because it notes 2009 and not 2010, okay. And also notes the link. So I'm sure we just throw that out or change them. Yeah, item 3 and item 6 talks about the portable bathrooms, which we said not to do. That's all. But I think it's a great.
And through the chair, last year they did work out arrangements with shop owners to be able to use, for farmers markets customers to use bathrooms in the nearby shops.
Right, and they are going to do that again, I
Correct.
take it? Great, thank you.
Through the chair. Obviously, there's 4 changes, as was indicated by you. The organization, dates, which makes sense, times. Councilmember O'Connell and I, as we said on there, was for reasons of parking, though I know in the staff report you make reference to the banking, the 2 banks that are offering their parking, so that should help address that. There was also some concern of nearby residents, that because there's usually entertainment, which Aaron and I have talked about the entertainment aspect, so but I'm sure that can be accommodated. But the thing is, when we come to, so I would assume that they would know best. If it's 9 to 1 that works best, and that's what seems to be what folks do, I'll give you that. On the Posey Parade, and the layout I think looks well, and I think that allows for emergency vehicles and any type of situation that arises, so I think that works out well. But on the Posey Parade, we're talking about, my only concern there is as far as staffing, resources, congestion. But also what we're saying in the staff report is, don't worry about parking because you can use the bank parking lots. But on Posey Parade, where you're having it down there, they can't use the bank parking. So in essence, where do they park? Where do they go? I don't think you can redirect the Posey Parade to cut down some way, I don't believe. So that's the one thing that, what are you going to do with those folks coming by? And where are they going to park?
I was thinking of that before the council meeting tonight. I think that I think people who go down to the Posey Parade generally either park in the neighborhood area, use the city parking lots, and I think a lot of the farmers market customers will be the same people, and they'll use the city parking lots and use the public parking in the street. I tend to park in City Hall parking lot on Posey Parade, and it's largely underutilized on that day. I'm one of maybe 10 to 15 cars within the city parking lot, so that's another area that we can consider directing people towards, since it is nearby both events. We could put signage as such to help direct people.
I
there.
gathered that. I knew what you meant. But thanks for the clarification. No, it was just a concern because, we have limited resources, and I just don't want to, with all that's going on that day, which is to celebrate the Posey Parade, which is a long-standing tradition in this community. I like the excitement of having a lot of activity in our city on that day. I'm hoping for a very nice, beautiful, sunny day. But also I want to keep in mind that we have only so much staff doing what they do on that day. And now I just always worry about the extra burden. And again, just the congestion and the safety of everybody trying to do all of the activities for that day.
Through the chair, if I could comment, being affiliated with the Posey Parade for many years, I've noticed that police is very prominent in the downtown as far as making sure that vehicles are off the street and that that the barricades are all maintained. Things. The Posey Parade starts at 1 o'clock. Most people that come to the Posey Parade are local, and they camp out and they sit along the street and view the parade as it comes by down San Mateo Avenue and then up to City Park. Being that the farmers market will be from 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock, I mean there may be shortage of parking, but it's not like there's going to be a competition for Posey Parade participants or spectators and farmers market shoppers. So I don't anticipate a big problem. I mean, I don't think there's I wouldn't expect a lot of people from the farmers market watching the Posey Parade, other than out of pure interest, knowing that the street's closed for some reason. But because of the fact that the Posey Parade starts at 1 and the farmers market will end at 1, there may be some overlap.
There's bound to be a little bit, but I think it'll work itself out. I just think the farmers market will have to have a lot of extra caramel corn for that day.
Most of the Posey parking is down at the north end for the participants.
Any more discussion? No. Action by the council?
I'd like to introduce the resolution.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. Item C, receive report and provide direction regarding additional smoking laws. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In conjunction with the ordinance that the City Council introduced this evening having to do with tobacco retailers, the City Council had previously asked me for an informational report regarding the status of tobacco regulations generally within the state of California. So in response to that request, I looked at what the city's previous history was with respect to smoking regulations, and I thought it was interesting that in 1987 the city actually adopted a comprehensive scheme relating to smoking, which turned out to be almost identical or very nearly so to the California smoke-free workplace law that was adopted in the labor code in about 1998. And so as a result of that labor code adoption of this particular law that prevents smoking from occurring in the workplace, the city correctly decided at that time to repeal its law because it was essentially preempted by the state law and duplicative of the state law. But since that time, both the state and the federal government have moved forward with even more regulations. And most recently, actually, the federal government has enacted the Family Smoking Prevention and Tobacco Control Act, which allows the FDA to enter into the business of regulating tobacco and smoking. And although there are some challenges to this current law, the FDA has been authorized to regulate and limit tobacco sales, marketing, including self-service displays, the issuance of free tobacco samples, and sponsoring of events by the tobacco industry. Now, in addition to that, since that time, prior to the enactment of the federal regulation, but in addition to that, the state of California has also continued to increase its regulation of tobacco and smoking in general. And so in the state of California today, there are quite a few limitations, and these are just a few of them as I've laid out in my staff report. Smoking is prohibited in enclosed places of employment, something we've already discussed this evening. It's prohibited in the indoor common areas of apartments and condominiums. It's prohibited in public buildings and within 20 feet of public buildings and the main entrances. It's prohibited in tot lots and playgrounds, schools, daycare facilities, vehicles with children, public transportation systems, airplanes and trains, youth buses, and public paratransit vehicles. So that's a sort of quick list that pulls together some of the most important state and federal regulations having to do with smoking. Now, some cities have determined that they will rely on the existing regulations as satisfactorily regulating smoking and the use of tobacco and tobacco-related products. Other cities have moved forward with more stringent regulations, and other cities, like San Bruno, have moved forward with particular regulations that respond to specialized concerns within the city. And San Bruno has done that with the enactment of two ordinances. One is our tobacco retailer permit, which the city adopted last year. And what that does is require all sellers of tobacco within the city to get a county permit. And that permit is directed quite a bit to ensuring that tobacco is not sold to minors and provides a basis for the strong enforcement and regulation of the selling of tobacco, in that if there are any violations of state or federal law, the county on behalf of the city will pull that permit. The second thing that the city did was to look at introduce the ordinance tonight that prohibits smoking within tobacco retailer shops, and therefore prohibits smokers' lounges. So that is the information that I have for you this evening, and I am happy to take any additional questions that you might have.
Any questions of our city attorney? Comments on the report?
Through the chair, I already somewhat believe we have already a comprehensive, and with tonight's action, I do believe we already have a lot of the things addressed and taken care of. I'll speak for myself. I wouldn't want to see us get into an area of regulating or having some ordinance about if you can or can't smoke in your apartment or in a townhouse. I'm not interested in personally going down that avenue. I believe someone's home is their home. I know some cities have. I personally, sitting up here, don't feel that that's our place, and I don't know how it would be enforced, honestly. But I think we already have a comprehensive, as you outlined here, well, and I think we've addressed most of the issues, and I think with tonight's action, it was just another indication of that.
Good. Anyone else? I agree with the Vice Mayor. It's fine to put a lot more things in place, but you have to be able to enforce them, and I know other cities have, and we have enough trouble with the budget without knocking on people's doors at this point in time. So, anyway, without any more comment, we'll go to Irene.
Yes, I would. I'd like some clarification, please. On page 61, where you have the bullets that talk about what other workplace areas that the city can consider regulating, I'm not clear on what it means exactly. Where you say up to 25% of 50% of hotel, motel lobbies?
Yes, I mean, there's a certain percentage, put in a sort of simple way, there's a certain percentage where smoking is allowed, within hotel areas and their lobby area, usually they have to be set aside, and cities can regulate that if they so choose.
Okay, so it's limited now, and then we can add limits to it? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
So how much more can you limit it? You can't say no smoking in a hotel lobby at all? Or
You could.
Oh, you can do, okay. So you can do that. And then the one above that, you can't say no smoking in any hotel rooms, but you can say up to 65% of hotel
No, it's
rooms.
actually the reverse of that, they can make
Okay.
up to 65% of, a hotel or motel could choose to be 100% smoke-free, and a city could choose that for them, if it wanted to do so. So right now, up to 65% can be, if they prefer it, they can smoke in them, up to 65% of the motel rooms.
So in any motel room or hotel room in San Bruno, 65% of the rooms can be
Right.
You can smoke in them.
It's just that most
designated.
Many hotels don't prefer to do that because the
Oh,
population here doesn't largely prefer that.
Okay. Okay, and just one more, because
Sure.
it got very confusing. Number 3 says meeting and banquet rooms in a hotel motel except while food and beverage functions are taking place. So a person cannot smoke when there's food and beverage functions?
Correct.
Okay, but they can smoke when there is a banquet, when there's no, so if somebody's giving a speech, there's no.
And you have to understand that's in the absence of any other either city regulation or the hotel's own policy that it may have. So many hotels today in California wouldn't permit that or would limit that. But there's no requirement that it be different than what the state law allows. So it's a matter of policy either locally or by that particular establishment or chain.
Okay, and then do we know of any complaints or citizen concerns about smoking in places other than what we've already regulated?
Well, I'm not aware of any, although they typically wouldn't come to me, but none have been directed to me.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Through the chair?
Okay.
The segue into that is my concern, and being a former smoker, I can't believe I'm saying this, but there are areas outside of certain types of businesses where smokers congregate because they can't smoke inside. And so I think that's probably the next step, and I mean, I don't know how Belmont's dealing with that, but yeah, I mean, you can be walking down the street, and I know, it opens up a whole can of worms to regulate the public right-of-way. But I would think that there's probably something on the horizon as far as limiting the amount of patrons outside of a particular type of business where, groups of people are smoking.
Well, there are limitations in some of the model ordinances that I have seen, limiting within a certain distance from either certain locations or activities like service areas or within public places such as parks and public facilities. I don't think that I've seen anything preventing it from being used necessarily just on the public right-of-way, walking down a sidewalk. But you have to be more location.
We're talking about outside of bars.
So you could potentially limit that.
Yeah, and so if you have a series of bars or something, and if it's a decent night or something, you can, walk down the street and have to walk around, a group of people.
Correct.
Been there.
Irene?
I know. See, I started quietly and worked my way up to this. This is a segue to this. One of the things with people smoking outside, especially in front of bars, is they smoke and then they throw the butts on the ground. And while it's a litter concern, it's also a concern when it goes into the street and then it goes down into our storm drains, and it's a hugely dangerous and hazardous waste situation. So if we can't prohibit or enforce prohibiting people smoking, can we at least require them to have proper receptacles for so however, ash cans, whatever, for the cigarette butts, because it's horrible.
Well, it depends on, I mean, that's interesting. It depends on how you want to approach it. You know, with an individual, you're basically telling them not to litter, which you already do have. With an establishment like a bar, I'm just trying to think through at the moment, if they're not allowed to have smoking anyway, whether, you know, you would then also be, would it be consistent to then require the
But
establishment
could we
to
have
provide some
them
sort of
required
receptacle?
outside?
I'm sorry?
Could we have them required outside of their
Maybe.
establishment?
And that is something that I could consider and report back to you on.
Okay, that I'd like to know.
Okay, I will find that out.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Anything else? Irene?
No, I'm done now.
Chamber can promote ashtrays.
All right. Last item on conduct of business is item D, adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to apply for federal funding to resurface various streets in the city of San Bruno.
Honorable Mayor, Council members, good evening. Your prior direction to the staff was to seek very aggressively any outside funding for transportation, knowing the gap between the need and the available funding for road improvements in the city of San Bruno. Based on your prior direction, staff made a recommendation back in February for you to approve to execute a contract with Harris and Associates to help us to apply for the so-called Phase 2 stimulus package federal transportation funds. You approved our request to contract with the consultant to help us to apply for the federal grant. What I am here tonight to seek your approval this is a technical requirement of MTC grant application that the city acknowledged the fact that the federal funding will be a predetermined fixed dollar amount. Also that the city will comply with all of MTC process requirement, and also that the city will comply with all of the project-specific federal requirements. This, how I indicated, this is a technical requirement of the grant application. Since my presentation to you back in February, I don't have any new information. What you have included in the staff report is the prioritization of the eligible roads for federal funds and the methodology how staff made and established those priority based on the road conditions, the pavement condition, and also the field survey. The only new information what I can offer you since the presentation back in February is the fact that based on follow-up discussion between MTC and CCAG, the decision was made by MTC that in the case of Phase 2 stimulus federal funding will not become available for transportation purposes, then MTC will use the normal federal Phase 1 transportation funds and will allocate using Measure A formula to each agency the federal fund for these eligible projects. That really will mean, in a sense, that if the federal fund will be approved and will be available, then maybe the city will have slightly higher dollar based on the best estimate today. Is this expectation is for the city of San Bruno for a total of $980,000. If this will not be approved by the Congress, then using Measure A formula from the normal Phase 1 federal transportation funding, the available funds will be around 700 maybe. But those are estimated dollars at this time. That's why it's our intent to put together a bid package, including more alternatives in our bid package, and with the recommendation, depending on the final funding and how those bids will come in, the department will come back for your approval for the award of the funding. If you have any question.
Any questions? Ken?
Through the chair, how much is the project for this year with the Measure A funds that's being proposed, that's already been approved?
For this year, using the Measure A funds already was implemented the project last year. Was left around 300,000 from Measure A funds, which wasn't implemented yet, and was our intent either to hold on and to combine with the next year resurfacing project, or depending how this federal fund will be approved, maybe to combine for other project in the same time.
Okay.
But certainly still you see the remaining around 300,000 Measure A resurfacing money, which wasn't allocated to any specific project.
Okay. Now, you have a project with $2.2 million in improvements, and if we get half of that, we're okay. So the other half of the project, does that fall into place, or does that it just gets reevaluated?
Wasn't our intent to combine those two, and the reason is that what you see here, this is a prioritization for the federal fund eligible roads, which has a very different prioritization versus the overall need in the city. And some of our not eligible roads are a higher priority for us, and that's why it's our intent to come back with a recommendation for the prioritization of those funds, considering the overall need of the city and not just for federally eligible roads.
And the Measure A funds that we expend are more on our selection based on the condition of the road.
Correct, but I just want to make sure that I am not that I am clear enough and I am not confusing you. What I said that is the intent that MTC will allocate federal funds using the Measure A formula. That really means that the next fund which will become available still will be federal fund and will be able to use only just on these eligible roads. It's a very different type of funds with Measure A, which still the city has 300 unallocated for this year.
City Parkway.
The City Parkway is actually Phase 1 federal funds, and it is my hope and expectation that if you recall, you already awarded the contract for Phase 1 federal fund resurfacing project. The only expectation now is for the weather to become better, and I am expecting that Phase 1 will be implemented probably in June of this year.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Action?
I'll introduce the resolution.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Councilmember Ibarra.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. We've already taken care of item number 11. Item number 12, comments from council members.
Through the chair. I just want to take this opportunity to remind folks about the census. It's not too late. I think it's April 16th. Unfortunately, I was listening to the news, and so I just overheard it, but I think in California, only about 63% of the folks have returned theirs. From what I'm understanding is once the deadline comes and goes, then they will start sending out individuals to then go back to try to assess again to everybody's home, which could cost about $3,000 per individual going out to each one of the homes to try to acquire and get the information on the census. Not only is it important just to do it, yes, it's the law, but it's also more simplified, it's confidential, but it's also critical so that everybody can be counted. And it's just not about one person doing it for themselves at the residence. You have to include everybody that lives in your home. That's important to get accurate counts, which actually help and benefit our community. So please take that time. It is not complicated this year. And again, there is still time. It's come again in the mail, and reminder cards. I think they have outreached very well to our community and around the state and the country. So please take the time and turn in your census.
Anything else, Ken?
Through the chair, I just want to make a highlight. A couple weeks ago, this entire city council and some staff members attended a recognition of public safety employees of San Mateo County. The annual Lions Peninsula Council and San Mateo County honored over 45 public safety from fire and police service. And I just wanted to recognize that we had three nominees, Jason Facero and is it Eduardo Rios of the police department officers, and Captain Mike Novelli of the fire department for service. And the police officers were for heroism. And it's just, the other comments were very positive that that they don't get the type of recognition that the Lions give at this annual event. 560 people attended this event down in Foster City, and the keynote speaker was Condoleezza Rice, and it was just a very well attended and just a major event, and we owe it to the public safety officers who go out there every year. So thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? All right, item 13, we do have a closed session. The City Manager and Human Resources Director request a closed session pursuant to California Government Code Section 4957.6 regarding direction for labor negotiations with the San Bruno Professional Firefighters Associations, Public Safety Mid-Management Bargaining Unit, Miscellaneous Group Mid-Management Bargaining Unit, San Bruno Police Bargaining Unit, and the San Bruno Management Employees Association. I don't believe there'll be any reportable, anything reportable after this. Okay. Item number 14 is adjournment, and the next regular City Council meeting will be held on April 27th, 2010, 7 p.m. right here at the Senior Center, preceded by interviews of potential members of commission, boards, and committees at 6 o'clock. Meeting adjourned.